IVM.
We live in a time when we have so many platforms in which we consume content. Most platforms add in more and more content in terms of so we can actually watch more. But what ends up happening many times is you spend that amount of time to kind of scroll through all of it and trying to find the right thing to watch. And there's so much great content out there. But most times, it would be nice to kind of have some of that curated or rather find something different. And that's when I came upon this platform called MUBI. And it was interesting because when I looked at it, it kind of stood for something that was parallelly opposite to what every other platform stood for. They would only give you one movie a day. Every movie would only last 30 days. And that was pretty much it. So at any point in time, you would have 30 films to watch, world cinema, good cinema rather, stuff that you would consume because it was made to be cinematic and not necessarily blockbuster. And it kind of got me intrigued because it wasn't just a movie SWOT platform or subscription platform, because it also had editorial. It made you go a little deeper into the movies. It made you understand what was there. And so when I got the chance to have a chat with its founder and CEO, Efe, I'm terrible at last names, and I'm not going to try and pronounce it. I thought it'd be interesting to kind of chat with him to kind of understand the strategy of a platform like his, which is kind of going in another direction from where everybody else is going, but yet seeing a fair amount of success and spread. And they're launching some interesting pieces around it, apart from the fact that they've also started taking a couple of things into under their own control, which is take over worldwide distribution rights in some cases, take over the producing activities in some cases. And they've just had their India launch and they've had a couple of interesting announcements around it. And so that's what's coming up on this episode of Advertising is Dead. I'm Varun Duggirala, co-founder and content chief at The Glitch, and we'll be right back with this.
This is the amazing story of something awesome. Once Chuck decided to start a podcast, and so he did. The end. Okay, that was a crappy story. But I've got some really cool stories over at my new show, The Origin of Things. On this podcast, I look at the stories of how brands came into being and sometimes evolved out of quite unexpected circumstances. And to make it really fun, I reveal the name of the brand and sometimes a category only at the very end. The show is 5 to 7 minutes per episode and perfect for trivia junkies and brand nerds, especially those with short attention spans. New episodes out every Wednesday on IVM Podcast app or website, or any podcast app or site that you happen to prefer. End of story, they lived happily ever after.
Welcome back to Advertising is Dead. I'm going to do what I do across most episodes. I'm going to ask my guest to help me pronounce his name. How do I pronounce your name?
My name is Efe Çakarel.
Okay. So I'm going to just call you Efe. I think that will make life simpler for me.
Sounds good.
I'm happy we're finally doing this. I know we were supposed to have done this some time back, and we're finally getting to do this. So I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Same here. Thank you.
And we're recording on the day when I finish 1 year of having a podcast. Wow. So it's extra special in that sense.
Congratulations.
So let me start by saying congratulations on you guys are officially launched in India.
Yep.
How has that journey been? And I'll get to the journey of how it started off. But I thought it would be interesting to start saying, how was the journey of the India launch been for you?
No, it's been a very happy moment for us launching here. We decided to come to India a couple of years ago now, right? Because India is a very particular place and a difficult market to crack.
Yeah,
because
there's so many film industries in one.
There are many Indias in India, as you know.
Yeah.
But we said last year, a little more than a year ago, said, okay, 2019 is the launch date. And we've been spending really the past year and a half operationalizing here. Yeah. And we are ready. It's been a really, really interesting journey, but I'm very happy that we are live in India right now.
Were you a watcher of what is not perceived as Bollywood cinema before? Because that's what happens, right? If I go globally, whenever I've traveled abroad, if someone says Shah Rukh Khan, I'm like, yes, of course I watch Shah Rukh Khan, but I'm like, there is more cinema. But have you?
No, but that was the starting point. India is not just Bollywood films, and we are actually exposed to some great classic Indian cinema. Yeah. outside of India. So when we first started looking at it about how to program our offering, we did something that we've never done before anywhere. So MUBI, as you know, our model is it's a curated model.
True.
Every day we show you one film. Each film stays for 30 days. So there are always 30 films you can watch, right? Every day one film comes, one film goes out. A constantly rotating library of amazing 30 films. And it's world cinema. When we came here, we knew Indian cinema was rich, but we were blown away with how amazing it is, and the volume of it, and the heritage of it. So we decided to create a channel that is dedicated 100% to Indian cinema, right? So, and we haven't done this anywhere. So there is no MUBI French, MUBI in Italian. There is only MUBI India. And MUBI India is exactly the same model. Every day, a new Indian film. So you have both MUBI World and MUBI India here in India.
What was interesting when I went on it as well is the kind of movies on it. And I saw the Indian selection, and I saw it. So, if I go a little wider and I talk about what is traditionally perceived as world cinema or art house cinema, if that's the correct term to use, it's always been about, this is eclectic. It's going to be something that is not necessarily mass consumed. It won't be what you will get in regular theaters. But that's not true.
Well, MUBI is available globally. It has been available to subscribe, to watch, and to stream in India for many years. We started 12 years ago. But what happens when we launch in a country, we come and operationalize in the country, and we build our content team, both for acquisition but also programming and editorial, and start actually doing deals with the local rights owners and get the films that have been distributed here. So before we come, if you looked at the selection, it will be very eccentric. Why? Because it will only be films that didn't get distribution here in India. We will be doing a deal with, say, a producer, and we will be getting a film from him or her. And we would ask where else this film is available. She said, yes, it's sold in, say, 52 countries. We're like, okay, can you please give us the other 140? And we can immediately start monetizing you that film from India to Jamaica to Vietnam, right? So that's how we built an offering in India. But when we come here, then we start getting bigger films, and then bigger films, that's going to start changing the perception a little bit, because films, great films, could be small, could also be really big. I mean, I don't know if you've seen Joker recently,
of
but
course I have,
that is as big as it gets, and it's pure cinema.
It
is, that Warner Brothers film, imagine that's on MUBI. I mean, that
so
would be
surprised as to how we got them to agree to even make it, right? Because that would tradition, like that is
it's
not
amazing.
I mean, what got me about that film, because so my choice in cinema, like I was starting to tell you before we were going to record, is that I went to film school, but I am not what you would call a traditional world cinema viewer. You've spoken to Rohit, my co-founder, and he watches world cinema. He's really
he was really into it.
He's really into it, right? So it's sporadic, right? But for me, a movie like Joker is in line with in generally about what kind of filmmaking was involved in it to make it something that could actually, even like, if you took the character away, it's still a story which could have been what is perceived as world cinema. And I think that's really the parallel.
Could be. I mean, it's difficult to describe what good cinema is, and that's why what we are doing is also very subjective. Because every day we choose a film, and that's handpicked.
And it's human curated.
And it's human curated. But what happens over time is, I think we are standing for something in a world where most platforms don't stand for anything. We take a film and we say, this is great, you should watch it. And I think that's really important.
What I think is also interesting about the platform is most platforms will give you something similar to what you always watch. That's how I think all algorithms across social media and platforms
to
work.
get you to binge.
Yeah, and you have the opposite, which is to say that 1 second, I'm going to show you something which you would not have watched, which you might find interesting if you actually sample it.
Yeah.
And also give you the opportunity to dig a little deeper and actually read stuff about it, because the editorials actually, I found that really enriching in terms of just the fact that you actually go deeper into what each aspect was.
Yeah, I mean, there is a reason for every film. But if I were to give you a good analogy, we are like the staff's pick at your favorite video store. You walk in there and you don't care how many DVDs and Blu-rays they have. There is a very knowledgeable guy behind the counter, right? You go to him or her, and you say you're in the mood for romantic comedy or action.
Yeah.
He would pick something from the staff's. Maybe you've never heard about the film before, but you would trust him, and you would go home, you would watch it, you would be delighted, and then you would come back to the same guy the next day, right? Yeah. So MUBI is that guy behind the counter. We watch every film, and we try to give you a selection of great cinema, and that's how it's so different from anybody else.
Were you always a film buff? Was that always a thing for you?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe after 11 years old, but this is my passion.
Do you remember the first film you saw which you really loved? I mean, if you go way back, like you say 11 years old, so I'm like, okay, then I can ask this question.
Because I think I remember. I grew up in Turkey on the west coast in a small city called Izmir. Mm-hmm. And my mom was in love with cinema. Yeah. And he would take me from a very early age to these wonderful little art house cinemas. And I remember the moment that I was really struck. And felt like I was in the presence of greatness was Cinema Paradiso.
Yeah.
I think I was about that age, 11, 12. It was nominated for Oscars. I think it even won the foreign language category. And that was so amazing. And I was so lucky as a little kid on a small Mediterranean city to watch this film and to fall in love with it. And then, of course, I got more and more into Italian cinema in my teenage years, and then European, and then of course I discovered Asian cinema. So it just was a love for cinema that just kept building, starting with those wonderful interactions in Turkey. But I also have to say, it's really sad that particular art house cinema that I watched, Cinema Paradiso, no longer exists.
It doesn't?
It was replaced by a big shopping center with with a multiplex inside and showing Avengers all day, right? So, what is part of the whole mission? Yes, it's a wonderful platform. It's growing nicely. It's a good, it's also a good business. But I feel like we are doing something really meaningful. We are, especially for the younger audience, because, some 70% of our audience is between 18 and 34. Okay. And young audiences increasingly do not get exposed to great cinema.
True.
And I think our mission to really, that's why just give you something that surprise you, delight you, make you curious.
Yeah.
Last week, when we launched, one of the films we started showing, in our Indian channel is a film called Piyasa by Guru Dutt.
Yeah.
And the engagement had been incredible. And this is a film that nobody else is showing, which is incredible. This is one of the best films I think ever made.
Yeah.
And to get also these young people to watch it for the first time and seeing how that conversation in especially social media takes off.
Yeah.
And now people are more curious about what else Guru Dutt has done.
Yeah.
I think to me that's incredible.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I think it's also like what we don't give young, and I'm so happy to hear about the age range, right? Because I think what we don't give young people credit for is the fact that they don't want experiences, but I actually feel that they do want experience. They want to experience. They don't want more of the same. They actually want the curiosity to actually see different things.
They are
and
curious,
find new things.
They want to be stimulated. They love creativity. But it's just not available most of the time.
True. Yeah. And also because I think what's also happened over time has been that this is a category of the audience that has said, okay, something's mainstream, I will consume it anyway. there used to be a time you'd only go over the weekend and watch the movie that came out in the theaters and go away. Now people watch stuff all day long. I work in an office with 200 people who are pretty much the demographic which we're talking about.
Yeah.
And they're watching stuff through the day, right? And while they're also doing their work.
Yeah.
And so that gives them more opportunity to sample different things, and they're looking for more and more different things.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
and that's why I find this interesting, because then this is around for them to experience without having to really go look for it.
Yeah.
The problem we have now is that we have way too much content to consume across all platforms.
Yeah.
So I spend more time scrolling through OTTs trying to find something to watch than actually watch stuff.
Yeah, you said it.
And the most times when I actually end up finally clicking on something to watch, the time I had put aside to watch something is almost over, so I'll watch like 5 minutes of it and then I'll forget about it. So my half scene, quarter scene, 5-minute scene, that list is extremely long.
Yeah.
And that's what we don't give something like this credit for, because of the fact that you're curating it for someone.
Yeah. No, what you described is actually a very well-known human trait. It's a paradox of choice. We are overwhelmed with choice.
Yeah.
And yet, every other platform is trying to give you as much content as possible. And mostly TV series, which is more engaging, and they do some really great series.
Yeah.
But film, you can get very frustrated very quickly with the cinema film offering of these platforms. And I think that's where we come in. We focus only on movies, and great movies, both world and local.
You know, when you spoke about the theater, there's something which I remembered. Right? I'd read some time back that one of the reasons why theaters have only started playing what is called traditionally blockbuster cinema is because people are starting to feel like, okay, if I need to get out of my house to actually go to a theater, the theater should actually require, like, the movie should require a theater to watch. But I also think it's because the experience of watching the kind of cinema that you get on MUBI is so interesting that people would actually go out and watch it if they had the option to. Mm-hmm. I think most times you don't give credit for the fact that the number of people actually want to watch it, the number is actually quite sizable, and that's actually not given credit for.
Yeah, no, true. And look, the unit economics of the exhibition business is really difficult. Real estate, fixed cost, very expensive, and they need to also create efficiencies around creating assets and marketing a big film. Try to hit as many people as possible and utilize those seats. Yeah. But yet, I think in aggregate, you're absolutely right. There's so many more people who would be interested in these smaller, wonderful titles. Yeah. So I'm here to say, and I can't believe I'm about to say it, like I like the theatrical experience more than the online experience. Okay, I think these films should be seen on the big screen primarily. Yeah. And what we are doing with MUBI, we are not replacing the cinematic experience. Yeah. We are trying to make it more convenient and accessible. Yeah. So if you were not lucky enough to live in, say, some of the major cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, and you miss watching a particular film, say in the couple of weeks when it's out in cinemas, MUBI is the way where you can catch it. Or also, you look at the classics, Guru Dutt's films, you'll never be able to see on the big screen unless there's a very special retrospective happening somewhere. Yeah. So that's what we do. That's our mission. But the cinematic experience is here to stay. But we are doing things about that. Do you know about MUBI Go? What we are doing in UK and what we literally are announcing today.
I've obviously not done enough research.
But
the 50 articles I read about you did not cover MUBI Go, so I will.
MUBI Go is literally being announced while we are having this discussion.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm not ignorant. I just am not optimally informed.
So in UK, which is the only country we do this so far, every week we choose a film that is being released in cinemas, and that film, our subscribers can watch it in any cinema for free. It's insane. Every week, the best film, we say, there's about 10 films that are being released in a given week. Yeah. We say, this is the best film. Yeah. Sometimes it's as big as it gets, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah. Or, say, Pain and Glory, Almodovar's latest film. But sometimes it's a small film that we discovered in Venice that is only opening in a handful of screens. But if it's the best film, our members can go and
So
and
you're
watch
literally
them.
a ticket to go watch this kind of cinema, no matter if you want to watch it on the phone, want to go watch it in the theater.
Yeah,
Is what
and often these are films that we would never get or own.
Yeah.
Last week, the film of the week in UK was The Irishman, a
Yeah.
Netflix film. Imagine I'm telling all my audience to go watch this film on the big screen, and I'm paying the exhibitors myself, and they pay to Netflix for that revenue. But my audience wants to watch these films in cinemas, in a real cinema. So we decided to launch that as well in India. And it's
perfect.
launching on Friday, actually, in just a couple of days. So if you're a MUBI subscriber in India, starting this Friday, you'll be able to go and watch our film of the week in any PVR cinemas across the country for free. So
That's amazing.
MUBI and PVR just today is announcing this partnership. So that tells you, like, we are really committed to cinema online and offline.
So you bring me to an interesting point, right? Because when you think of this service, it's the whole theater going experience. I remember having this conversation with someone who does stuff in the events and experiences space, and we were discussing secret cinema. And why, and if you take secret cinema and you do it in India, the opportunities you have to create stuff is so wide, because you can add so many elements to it. And the question was,
why don't we do it?
People are like, why will people come to the theaters? Was the conversation where there were 3-4 of us, and I was kept saying, no, people want to come. They need to enjoy the experience. As much as we love multiplexes, many times I think sometimes you don't have the experience of kind of walking in and feeling what you would when you go into a theater. But I think there are now enough theaters even within a PVR, for instance, where I know you have that experience in some of the ones which they've kind of built out. And there is something about sitting in a theater.
Yeah. No, I think so. But it is a wonderful experience to watch these films on the big screen. Yeah.
Getting back to your platform, because and this is I'm sure you answered this like 50,000 times, but how did you start it off? Or how did that happen? Because you went, just to explain.
How far back I should
just
go?
To explain, you are a maths whiz, is what I could gather, because you went to MIT and you cannot not be good at maths and get into MIT. Then you went to business school at Stanford.
No, but there was something before. I mean, like, I studied electrical engineering and computer science. I double majored at MIT. And like every engineer who didn't know what to do with his life, I joined Goldman Sachs, right? So I spent about 4 years at Goldman, which was also important, because whatever you do in life, in business, you could be working for a company, you could be a manager, you could be running a company. Your company is going to take some financial decisions. It's going to raise capital. It's going to go public. It's going to issue debt. It's going to sell it to someone or buy another company. So it was important to understand corporate finance at the early stage of my career, working with some really smart people. And then but I was restless. Like I wanted to try different things, because there are really in business also 3 things you can do, right? You're either an advisor, which is what I was doing at Goldman, or you're an operator, manager, which is what you and I are doing right now, or you're an investor.
True.
Okay. And it's important, I think, for those listeners who are in their 20s. It's important for you to try these 3 things to see what you feel like you're good at.
Yeah.
And in your 30s is when you build a lot of experience in doing your chosen field. And in your 40s, I think, is really when you start creating some meaningful value. Okay, so that's sort of how the framework that I
could not
had.
agree with you more.
Yeah. And I was having a good time at Goldman, but I wanted to try either operations or investing. And I went to business school because it's always good to sort of take a step back and put all your experience in perspective, decide what you want to do with your life. And then I started this, right? And I found it. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, because I love cinema. I know how to build this stuff. As an engineer, of course, I wrote the first version. I knew how to hire engineers, build a team. And I don't come from the film world, so it was incredibly challenging to crack this.
But I think it's actually a good thing you didn't come from the film world, because you came from someone who enjoyed cinema. And I think that was core to the platform because, and there are people who say on either side, right, of this whole thing, saying you need to be from the industry to be able to get out to do it. But I feel that you need to be passionate about what your building stands for, and that's all you pretty much need. I work in a smaller way. I work in advertising. I never worked in an agency in my life before we started this. So I totally understand in a very different and smaller degree what that is. How did the chat with Guneet happen?
So we are incredibly lucky that Times Group found out about us. I mean, they have a specialized division that is
TimesBridge,
helping TimesBridge, fast-growing companies, invest in them, bring them here, and help them launch and grow their businesses. And Rishi, who runs TimesBridge, reached out to me, and we began a wonderful conversation. This was about 3 years ago, and we loved each other. And and they ended up investing in MUBI. Okay, and TimesBridge has an internal team that is really focused on sort of getting these companies operational, and their team members knew Sucharita, to be precise, knew Guneet, and we met Guneet, and of course we loved Guneet, and she's an advisor to us. And Guneet is also helping us right now with understanding how this industry in India works, and introduce us to our current programmer and so on and so forth.
We're a unique organism, is what I like to call it. The media and entertainment space in India is extremely unique we're structured in being unstructured in most cases, and vice versa, but it's interesting. It's like the Wild West.
Well, it is, but like every industry, I don't know if you would agree with me, but it's small. Globally, there is about 3,000 people who control the world of film. Okay, and in India, that number is probably about 200. 200, 300.
It is a tiny industry.
And it is small. It takes you time to really establish yourself in a new country, region. But it is entirely possible if you stick to your vision. People see that you're genuine about your ambition. You work hard, you execute, and good things happen.
The choice of Guneet was interesting because I thought that, if there was a person anybody could pick who would be the propagator for what your platform stands for, it would be her. And it's literally like, someone would say, okay, can you make a list of people, and that would be the first name, and that's kind of the name that you guys got on. There are a bunch of more things that I really want to ask you, but I do know we need to go in for a break, so I'll do that, and we'll be right back with advertising instead.
Hey everybody, welcome to another awesome week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you are not following us on social media, please make sure you do. And it's about time that you did. So we're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Go to whichever platform you prefer, or all three of them, and click and follow. Also, you should check out our Instagram feed. We have a lot of interesting stuff going on over there. Peeks inside what's going on in the studio, polls, all kinds of cool stuff. So definitely come out there. Want to thank our sponsors this week, Cambly, Intel, and Storytel. Our sponsors make this stuff possible, and so please make sure that you shout out to them. Let them know that you appreciate it. One more note before we get into talking about what went on in the network this week, and that was that I would appreciate, deeply, deeply, deeply appreciate it, if you guys could go to ivmpodcast.com/survey or go to the website and click on the survey heading. And what we're going to do is we're going to do another listener survey. We'd like to know a little bit more about you, who's listening to us, why you're listening to us, what you want out of us, all of that kind of stuff. So, it would be really, really helpful to us if we could get a little bit of more information from you guys about who you are, and that would help us kind of go out and talk to advertisers, which is, again, as I mentioned earlier, how we get this thing going. So this week we're premiering a new Hindi storytelling show. It's called Tapri Tales and it's hosted by Madhuri Advani. Madhuri narrates day-to-day stories and occurrences in women's lives across generations. This week she questions the tea-serving traditions in our house through the mother and daughter pair in her story called Chai Ki Cha. On the scene and the unseen, JP Narayan, founder and president of the Lok Satta Party, returns as a guest to talk to Amit Verma. They deep dive into the state of Indian politics. On Paisa Vaisa, Anupam is in conversation with Dr. Vijay Malik. He talks about his blog, why he believes in stocks, and what is peaceful investing. On Football Shitball, Gaurav, Karthik and Siva round up the EPL fixtures of the weekend, last week's Champions League's madness, and the FPL. On Advertising is Dead, Varun is joined by Turkish entrepreneur Efe Çakarel, founder and CEO of MUBI. They talk about the different kinds of cinema and its reach. On Pulyabazi, Pranay and Saurabh are joined by Kabir Taneja, a fellow with the Observer Research Foundation. They discuss the psychology of terrorists and the Islamic State's online propaganda machine. On The Habit Coach, Ashton shares 4 traits that one needs to be lucky and to approach the world in a positive way. On Heal and Hearty, Rachna talks about the importance of organic foods and unravels the myth and realities behind organic produce. On 9XM Soundcast, Eva is joined by playback singer Divya Kumar, who talks about the importance of folk and classical music. And with that, let's get you on with your show.
Welcome back to Advertising is Dead. Is regional going to be a large focus in terms of what you guys are doing? I'm sure, but I just thought...
I mean, we started here in with mostly Hindi.
Yeah.
And this is where also our current advisors and ecosystem is more comfortable.
Yeah.
But even in my next trip, we were just talking about it. My next trip in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be spending time in Chennai.
Yeah.
I'm getting increasingly fascinated by the South India film industry.
So I'm South Indian, and I'm going to tell you that we make very interesting cinema down south. It's not only the loud pelvic thrusting type, which we've all grown up on, many of us, but there is genuinely, I'd say, if you look, and many people will have issues with what I'm going to say, but cutting edge cinema that's alternative, yet is mass consumed, is actually down south, because open to a lot of concepts which would traditionally not work. Unfortunately, the Bombay industry has a problem, is because they're across the country. They sometimes end up having to make stuff that appeals across the country.
Yeah.
The South at least has it's an interesting ability to be just one state, but yet have scale.
No, and what you're saying, actually, it's not the first time I'm hearing. There are a lot of people who agree with you. So we will be spending more and more time. There are wonderful cinema that is being produced in different states, different regions, in their own languages, that are also very distinct. And we will be building a cinema, a pan-India cinema experience that will really encompass these regions. We need to figure out language and understand the user behavior. Currently, people are telling me there's a lot of stuff that is coming out of South India that they never get to see.
True.
Because they don't necessarily make a big theatrical here. And the bigger platforms are not interested in the smaller regional titles necessarily. They go for the really big blockbusters and big series. So how do you how do you try to do that at scale? Is we decided that we are going to use English as the common language to showcase the film. So it's going to be all in its original language with English subtitles. But over time, for example, if we see that there's a huge uptake for the pan-Indian, films from Bengali, from Hindi, from Calcutta, from Mumbai, a lot of people are watching it in South India, and they want to watch it in their own language. Then, of course, you'll be adding Tamil in different languages in subtitles. But I think it's going to be a fascinating journey to create an amazing cinema experience of Indian cinema, both classic and contemporary, from all the regions that appeal to the whole country. I mean, that's the dream. It'll make me seem really old, but when I was growing up, I remember the street in which I lived. You look young. People maybe don't know how. I'm almost 40. I'm a couple of years away from 40, but the street outside our house would have street screenings of cinema, where everybody in the street would come and sit, and there would be this huge screen. The road get blocked at night, and they would just project. And it would always traditionally be Telugu movies, but there would be once in a while movies, they would play really old silent movies which didn't necessarily need language, and you didn't really know which ones they were. Cool. Oh, that's a good idea. and so when you through the conversation, those are some of those flashes. I think that's really what this also is, right? It's that whole experience of it. Which is why whenever, even though in between you are speaking of how the platform will function, and I'm sure there's an algorithm, or rather, in terms of there's some use of data to really build out what your curation is. But at the core of it, it's still human intervention. I mean, we use a lot of data to suggest what kind of films people would like to watch where, and that's statistically significant at this point for us. Like, to give you an example from our core markets in UK, we are headquartered in London. In UK, we are the 4th largest SVOD play. So Netflix is the biggest, then Amazon, then Sky, then us, right? And there we have deals with major studios, mini majors, all the distributors. Say we have a deal with, for example, with NBC Universal, right? Universal Studios in 11 territories in Western Europe, UK, US, Germany, Scandinavia, Netherlands, all of those countries. We show one film a day. That's only 365 movies a year.
Yeah.
So I could potentially show maybe 40, 50 titles from NBC. How do you choose out of their library of 3,000 titles, the 50 titles that you're going to choose? And it's a different 50 in Germany than it is in Norway, because the Germans watch very different films than the Norwegians, right? So we run our algorithms first to determine, say, out of those 3,000, what is the 300 titles that, based on the engagement and the viewing behavior, people would like to watch, say, in Germany. But then, and it's a different 300, say, than in Norway. But then the real magic is our programming team then sits down, whoever is also responsible for programming German, every day, the film of the day. Out of those 300, they would pick, say, 38 titles that they want to program next year. Because they're maybe thinking some thematic, maybe they want to do a retrospective of someone and so on and so forth. And that's what makes MUBI what it is. But we use a lot of data, of course, to suggest what. But then the human element, someone who really understands the audience and knows a lot about the films, and approaching it as a curator to determine at any point what is the best 30 films we could be showing in Germany.
So what would your criteria be to say this movie, this is the kind of cinema that is not, I'm going to ask you, how do you choose? Because but what are you definitely going to, this is not going to be on the platform. How, is that easier?
It is. It's very subjective, right? So that's why it's difficult. And in certain cases, even sometimes the team has long debates as to whether or not we should be showing a
because while you said there's one video store guy who will give you options, you have a set of video store guys and girls who are all sitting and saying, okay, this is what I'd pick. Like I'm sitting right here, and because it's a podcast, people can see is that there is a flip book which has Andaz Apna Apna on it, and I'm like, this would be my choice, right? This is what I would say you should put on the platform, and I would also choose a Guru Dutt movie, but I would choose this first, right? Somebody else might not choose this; they will choose something else. So that's
no. I have to say it's difficult, but the most important element of it, though, is whatever film, if you show a film, there's got to be a reason why that film exists. And I always tell my team, and I said it maybe more than once even today, we don't take ourselves too seriously. We take what we do very seriously. But there is a moment where we show that really small, obscure, amazing, independent title we discovered in Venice, and then the next day we might just show Airplane, and that was also amazing, and that was also a lot of fun. And when it came out, it was really fresh. So with the right context, I think you can show. But then there are certain films where we universally say that was a bad film. It will never be on MUBI. So like Transformers 4. Will never be on MUBI, even though there was this really cool camera movement, because that was a bad film. And when we actually have a deal with Paramount, and I even told it to the president of Paramount when I meet in LA, which is insane. I said it will never be on MUBI, because we got the Godfathers and so I think that's super interesting that we collectively, but then there's some films like The Dark Knight was at the time when it first came out, it was a big debate whether or not it belongs to MUBI, but then in the end we decided that it does, because that was Christopher Nolan's film.
I'd say Dark Knight does. I don't think Dark Knight Rises does, is how I would categorize it.
Well, correct, but maybe, yes, I would agree with you, but that was a debate, but it's fun.
Because what you stand for is the exact opposite. Because literally today I was watching a video where someone's talking about what makes your favorite Netflix show get cancelled. Was a video I was watching today, and it literally said that you might like some of the shows which might have less viewership, but because they don't have enough, they might end up getting cancelled. But here you're saying that it's actually a mixed thing. This is a movie that you might just like. It might not be the kind of stuff you watch every day. But
Absolutely.
you just might like it, and that's it's. So do you look at it as a mix of saying, okay, some stuff which everybody will like, some stuff which is going to be obscure. So is that? I'm just trying to figure if there is some sort of a science.
There is very few films that we think everybody would like. It's very rare.
Yeah.
It's very rare. No, I think the starting point is really there was something about this film that is really great. Whether it's storytelling, it's direction, it's acting, cinematography, something about it.
Yeah.
But sometimes, again, this is the point. I think popular doesn't always mean good.
Yeah.
But it doesn't also necessarily mean bad.
Yeah.
So there are films that we think everybody will watch and we would show. There are films that we think everybody will like, but we don't think it's great, so we won't show, and vice versa.
Yeah. Do you see, because from the time you started off to now, the entire video on demand piece has scaled, right? Especially across digital platforms. Have you seen the quality of the kind of stuff people are making also? Because a lot of it will still be stuff that was from before the time. But I also noticed that a lot of the content is also, I would say, last couple of decades as well. It's not like you're only showing older movies. So have you seen the quality of films that you would bring onto the platform increasingly getting better or not? I would say more recent ones. Is
very difficult question. There is always some nostalgia. There is always looking at certain periods, but the reason you get excited about those certain periods and certain films, even though a lot of films are made, those films survived, and they survived for a reason. Of course, when you watch 8.5 by Fellini, and you're like, wow, they used to make such amazing films in 60s, but they continue to make amazing films. I think it's a very vibrant community. I think people who are very creative in nature continue to make some amazing films, and then we keep discovering these new talent. Like in Cannes this year, we bought a film for All Rights UK, because we start to buy all rights and we release them theatrically, and then it comes to MUBI exclusively. We bought a film by Kantemir called Beanpole. It's a Russian film. Nobody really knows much about this particular director. He's very young. I think he's 27 years old. Beanpole is a masterpiece. Okay, and it's a small, lovely title that no one knows of, but over time, but people make films like Beanpole today. So no, I do think at any point there are amazing films that are being made, and it's a very vibrant community.
You also transition towards, like you said, buying overall rights for movies and also producing some as well. And that's where is that a conscious attempt to kind of also look at the kind of facilitate the kind of cinema that you want on the platform?
To give you a sense of how we are looking at how this is developing, is what really moves the needle for us is to have exclusive films available early on your platform, right? So if I had Joker exclusively on MUBI today, that's when you expect your subscribers to go up substantially. There are two ways of getting that. One, you produce the film, and two, you buy all rights of the film in a particular territory. I mean, if it's an independent film, it will be premiering in a place like Cannes or Busan or Sundance. Distributors from all over the world would watch the film. If they think it's going to do well in their country, they will be buying that film for their territory, right? So by owning that film in a particular territory, then you can actually release it, and it's going to come exclusively to MUBI. But in the long run, you have to produce it. You have, it's existential. In the long run, to have a meaningful differentiation, you have to. And I'll give you one important example of why that is the case. What you're experiencing right now with the whole streaming platforms, this is going to get even more fragmented, okay? With the studios now also coming direct to you. Instead of...
There was this joke on Twitter, and I'm going to cut it here, sorry, and say this, because someone actually said, someone is very soon going to make this box which you connect to your TV, and it's going to have all these dedicated apps which you can click on to, and they will have all these shows you can watch. It's a genius idea. I wonder why nobody's done this before, which is literally the set-top box we've had connected to our TVs for TV channels all these years. So it's exactly the same model, right?
No, but the point is, there's all these different platforms that you will need to subscribe in order to, and that's that is going to change the dynamic. Last year, one of my favorite films was The Favorite, and that film, I'm sad to say, which was a MUBI Go title, so my audience watched it in cinemas. In fact, more than 20% of my subscribers in UK, they, I think our subscribers in UK, they watch that film in the opening, which is an insane number, right? So you see that our audience really wants to watch these films on the big screen. And that film I'll never be able to show on MUBI. And also Netflix. No matter how much money we put on the table, we will never be able to show it. Why? Because Fox, who released that film, who's now owned by Disney, will never license that film to anybody else except their own platform. So if you want to show Yorgos Lanthimos' next film on MUBI, you have to produce it, right? So we really have to figure this out.
So you need to own it now to be able to distribute it.
Yeah, you need to produce it, and our strategy will be slightly different from those guys, of course, because we really believe in the theatrical, so we want to really give it a good theatrical. We'll partner with distributors around the world in order to do that. But the point is, you need to produce and own the film.
If someone's an independent filmmaker in India and wants to reach out to you guys, how does one do that? I'm sure that is like the one question. There's a lot of
hello at MUBI.com. But we have a lot of submissions, as you can imagine, globally coming to MUBI at this point, and we have a very efficient workflow to go through them, watch them, and come back to you as quickly as possible. But we need those independent, wonderful films, but that's our mission. We need to unearth them, both established and emerging talent.
Yeah. You know, I remember when I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood recently, and
good film, no?
You know, there are scenes in that movie where you're sitting and saying only Tarantino could have made someone sit and watch how he can stretch a scene like this, and you don't actually care because you're enjoying yourself so much, and that's sometimes missing with Transformers, since that seems to be the parallel opposite of what that stands. Oh my God, I'm not even getting into it.
No.
But and I enjoy action cinema. So like I again, before recording, I mentioned that I went onto the app today and I saw both the John Wick, the first and the second ones on it, and I was like, see, I mean, like, it's not like I don't watch. There's some cinema which I really enjoy, which I was like,
there is nothing wrong with liking action cinema. I love action cinema.
But it needs to have a story. It needs to make you feel something, right? It just can't. This is going to be a Transformers bashing episode if we continue on this thread of thought. Okay. Towards the end of every episode, right, and because we've spoken at length about what you guys are doing, I do this really random thing where I ask people really random questions.
Okay.
About yourself. It's not about the platform, it's about you. But I want to start off by asking you, there is this interesting line in the bio that I got about you, which says that... if he were to give you directions, you'd never get lost and you'd arrive at least 5 minutes early. Why are you a substitute for Google Maps?
No, I mean, look, corporate bios of people are the most boring things you read. No, I mean,
I agree.
Efe Çakarel, went to MIT and then Stanford. I think that is really boring. So I was good friends with this creative. His name is Juan Cabral. Who won the Grand Prix in Cannes 2 years in a row, which is insane. I said, can you please, and it comes from the copy. I said, can you please help me? Like, I need to say something that is interesting about me in my bio. And he's like, what are you really good at? I said, I'm good at, like, I don't know, I'm electrical. I can fix, like, radios. He's like, no, that's boring. It's like, what are you really good at? I said, I'm really good at giving directions. And so he wrote that copy for me.
That has to be the most bizarre response you could have given.
I'm really good at giving directions. I know, but it needed to be
Try
something
doing that in Bombay. You're gonna give up on that.
No, I'm good even in Bombay.
Yeah?
Yes, let me take you around.
What are you a fan of, or what is that one thing which people wouldn't assume you're actually it's something that you enjoy? So if someone met you and you say, "Oh, I actually enjoy this thing as an activity or as anything," what would that be? Like this is a random question.
I'm thinking seriously. Is this something that I can say? Something surprising that I do that I like that you wouldn't guess.
You wouldn't assume that you would be a fan of that, or if that's your quirk.
I make 30-minute brownies in 20 minutes.
What? Then it's a 20-minute brownie. You can't call it a 30-minute brownie then.
You would have guessed that. Yeah.
So that leads me to my next question, which is very bizarre, which has been the single question I've asked everybody who's ever come on this podcast, which is, what can you whip up in an instant?
What can I
whip up in an instant? What can you put together in an instant? It can be food. It can be a drink. It can be something which is not edible as well.
For the past, 12, 13 years, every Sunday night, I cook the same dish.
What?
Spaghetti vongole. Okay, with clams. Because I've been doing it for so many years and for so long, I can put that together with my eyes closed so quickly, and it will be the most delicious spaghetti with clams that you'll ever eat. So I guess that's my answer.
Do you listen to podcasts? Sporadically?
I don't.
You don't?
I don't. I mean, this one, of course, now I will start listening.
What kind would you like to listen to? I'll give you recommendations.
I would like to listen to podcasts about philosophy.
There's I think one called Philosophize This.
Okay,
which you should try out. It's interesting. It's a unique take on
fairly straightforward.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you should try that one out.
That would be one I would get really excited about.
Music? Do you what's your?
I don't listen to music.
You only watch film.
And when I listen to music, I listen to only jazz or classical. But I've never been into really popular.
Can someone tempt you towards jazztronica? Because that's a thing now. Which I've started to listen to recently. It's interesting.
Sure.
So we had Akshat from Spotify here a couple of weeks ago, and he put me onto this playlist on Spotify called Jazztronica.
Oh, I'm on
Spotify
as well. So
it's been an interesting discovery for me to figure out that's a genre, which I did not know existed. But it's interesting.
But if you see my life, as you would imagine, and you're probably like the same. We work a lot.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yes.
7 days a week. I come home late. I cook something quick on Sundays, as you know, spaghetti vongole, and I watch a movie. I try to watch a movie every night, and that has really been my life for many, many years now. And I'm deeply passionate about it, but it's also, I need to watch. Also the new stuff that we might be considering, films from producers and directors that we want to do their next film. I go and watch every film that they make. And now we are launched in India, so I need to go and watch every Indian film. And that is, to me, it's my world.
So is a holiday for you not to watch anything?
A holiday for me is to be completely offline. Absolutely. And I've done it once.
Oh, you have?
I've done
Once?
It once. It was really great.
That's not a holiday. That's
in Corsica.
A holiday is
ago.
a yearly activity at worst.
Well, I'll take holidays later in life. Yeah. How is that?
Why do you think advertising will not die? I know you don't have advertising on MUBI, but I will ask you that question.
Advertising will not die if it's done well. I think it's quite stimulating and interesting. No, you would agree with me.
I'd agree with you.
Yeah.
It's my day job.
I do. I absolutely like really good advertising.
But I agree with you. You can tell great stories in advertising if you just make sure you tell great stories and not do everything else.
Sure.
Thank you so much for doing this. This has been fun.
Thank you. This was also a wonderful conversation. I'm very happy. Right before I go to the airport fly back to London, it's lovely to
I'm going to give your throat some rest because I think it'd be good to get some rest on the flight.
I think I'll sleep like a baby. I had 18 interviews back to back earlier today. 18
and
newspapers.
And we still dragged you over here and made you have this long a conversation.
Oh, see, this gives me energy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi guys, this is Ayushi.
And I am Ritasha.
And welcome to Agla Station Adulthood.
It's a fun podcast we've got going on and we'd love for you to tune in and enjoy with us.
Join us as we stop at various stations and discuss different topics that seem to be bothering us and hopefully you as well.
Relationships, beauty, just being an adult, lots of different things.
We don't have a great grip on it, but we've done okay so far.
Catch Agla Station Adulthood every Thursday on the IVM app, the IVM website, or wherever else you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Satyajit.
Hi, I'm Racheta.
We are from the Open Library Project and we host a podcast called Paperback.
Paperback is a podcast where we engage with stalwarts and experts from various industries, suggesting non-fiction titles that contributed to their journey in a big way.
We've had guests like Anjali Raina, Dr. Marcus Rani, Dr. Swati Lodha, Ambi Parmeswaran, Apurva Damani, and many more on our show Paperback. Find new episodes every Wednesday on IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you listen to podcasts.